Hi everybody, welcome back. Fire stopping. Fire stopping and the electrical installation. So as the electrician, what do you know? As the person who's putting that cable through a wall or that pipe through a wall, what is your responsibility? As an FSR, as a Red Seal, as the electrician who's in charge, what do you have to know? Just make a hole through it, stuff a pipe through, call her done? No. Okay, so now let's just take a moment to kind of go through, we're going to go through the electrical code. We're going to stop and look at the electrical code and see what the requirements are there. And then we're going to follow that through and we're going to look a little deeper. We're going to dive a little deeper into this. So here's the Canadian Electrical Code. And we are looking at this rule right here. 2.128. Section 2, rule number 128. And this is fire spread. Electrical installation shall be made so that the probability of spread of fire through fire stop partitions, floors, hollow spaces, firewalls, or fire partitions, vertical shafts, or ventilating or air conditioning ducts is reduced to a minimum. So this is a great statement because they're saying here, electrical installation shall be made so that the probability of the fire spread through fire stop partitions, floors, hollow spaces, firewalls, or fire partitions, vertical shafts, or ventilating or air conditioning ducts is reduced to a minimum. They are now pointing towards you to say that it is your responsibility for the electrical installation. And then subrule 2, where a fire separation is pierced by a raceway or cable or an opening around the raceway or cable shall be properly closed or sealed in compliance with the National Building Code of Canada. This is also true for a box. There are requirements for a box in a fire-rated wall. So you must make sure you know what you're doing, what you're installing in that wall. We're just going to be looking at the penetrations right now. We're not going to get into the type of box that's going to be required in a fire separation wall. This is not flame spread. Flame spread is another rule which is another rabbit hole. But for now, we are just going to be looking at 2.128 fire spread. Let's go see what Appendix B has to say. Appendix B states specific requirements pertaining to penetrations of fire separations in buildings can be found in subsections 3.17319 of the National Building Code of Canada, or the appropriate provincial or territorial legislation. Well, what does this mean? How do we find this? This is a different book. You've gone through your whole apprenticeship. You've gone through, if you're an FSR, you took FSR training. Very little is talked about or has been talked about up until now about the National Building Code of Canada and the connection to electrical installations. Yes, there is a connection for fire alarms. We've always said that. There's that part. Smoke alarms is another topic that is driven by National Building Code of Canada. Our section for the installation of smoke alarms is very small. There is really nothing. It's all building code. So our book, by this rule here, states that we are responsible for that fire separation if we pierce it with a raceway or cable. Now, just saw an interesting note there. Let's go look at this, because what does 12.1602 say? 12.1, so the use of surface raceways, and they are pointing this back to Appendix B. And no. Okay, let's go back to here. And we need to go back to section 2. And give me back my sidebar. There we go. Let's go to section 2. I love the PDF version. The PDF version of the code book is very easy to work with. Okay, fire spread. Appendix B. G. Appendix G. What is Appendix G? Well, Appendix G is references to National Building Code of Canada. So this, you look at all of this stuff in here, this is all references, all rules that we have that tie back to building code and electrical code. So there is a connection. So 2128, so 3191, subrules 1 and 2, fire stopping of service penetrations through fire rated assemblies or fire separations. 3193, penetrations of fire rated assemblies or fire separations by wires, cables, boxes, or raceways. So, and you can see there's a number of things here that deal with fire stopping. 3113, flame spread rating of combustible light diffusers and lenses and electrical wiring boxes and penetrating a fire separation. Now, what does all this mean? How do we find this information? So, we're fortunate in BC. We can actually go look a lot of this stuff up. We can kind of have an idea. This rule, so this here is a rule in the building code. Now, unlike electrical code that you have to pay for, or somebody has bought it for you, or it was gifted to you, whatever the case may be, whether you're using book or using PDF, or however you're looking at electrical code, building code is free, which is a wonderful thing. I would love to see electrical code be free too, but unfortunately right now it's not. So how do we look it up? How do we find it? Well, it's quite easy actually. So let's just go have a peek. So here I am just on, Chrome, and I'm just going to look up BC building code. Now keep in mind BC building code is going to the 2024 edition here very shortly. I'm recording this presentation in early March. Okay, BC building codes. We go to BC building code. Oh, actually it's sitting right here, right in front of us. BC Building Code 2018. That's the edition that is currently that is adopted in BC right now and underway. Free online access. This is a wonderful thing. Access BC codes online. You just simply click on it. And the book you are looking for is the Building Code 2018. That is, at this time when I'm doing this presentation, that is the book. If you want to look up fire code and plumbing code, all of these are in here as well. So you just simply click on it. Now, the rules that we saw back here, and 128, 3191, 3193, and you can see that a lot of them start with 3. Then there's one that starts with a 9. The 3 is representing a Part 3 building, and the 9 is representing a Part 9 building. There are two different structures. They are built lit differently. They are large. A Part 3 is larger in size than a Part 9. If the easiest way to look at it is a Part 9 is a dwelling. Somewhere, let's just say a single family dwelling is the easiest way to call a Part 9 building. A Part 3 building could be a large condo building, and it has to meet a criteria of its particular size, but that would be a Part 3 building. They're built differently and they're looked at differently. So now let's go. So we've opened up this BC publication. We've got compliance, division B, acceptable solutions. This is where you want to start. So acceptable solutions, if I can say it as clearly, this is the published version that you can look at, and there's no alternative solutions or anything like that. This is what the acceptable solutions are presently. So we can go in here, and now you can see there's part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So part 9, remember I said, is like a house. Well, here it is, it's housing and small buildings. Part 3 is fire protection, occupant safety, and accessibility. So let's open that up. Now we can just jumping back and forth here. So let's look at 3191. So we can go to 3.1, and this is the general. And here we are, look, we're right into building code. And 3193, and it comes, there's 9.1, fire stops. So 319 is all about penetrations in fire separations and fire rated assemblies. And then you've got fire stops, combustibility of service penetrations, penetrations by wire, cables, and outlet boxes. There's a lot of information in here. And our code book is tough to read. Building code is not easy to read either. Anything that you see in here that is blue, that is a new rule, or has been updated or improved. It could be editorial. But there's a lot of information in here on penetrations by an outlet box. So there are particular things, combustible piping penetrations. And like I said earlier, penetration by wire, cable, and outlet. So how do we look at this stuff? And as the electrician, you are looking around going, well, I got stuff going everywhere. What do I know is a fire rated wall? How do I deal with it? What is a fire rated wall for? How do we work with this? So let's go back. And here, this is, now we're back in electrical code here. So let's stop here. But what I would like to say to everybody, before I walk away from this piece right here, this little, this module, is I would like you to realize, as the electrician, because it is in our code book, it is pointing at us with subrule 2, where a fire separation is pierced by a raceway or cable, any opening around the raceway or cable shall be properly closed or sealed in compliance with the National Building Code of Canada. So that is saying that it is your responsibility. Yes, I get it on a large project when they're building a large building right from the very beginning. There's an engineer that comes and looks at it. An engineer comes and checks the fire separations. The electrical engineer will come check your fire stopping. But what about the time that somebody goes to work at a mall and they have to put in, they're running something from between two spaces, I'm going to say in a mall, between two stores or between three stores, and I got to get a cable from one store to the next store, and there's another store in the middle. Or I have to go across a hallway. That hallway could be a egress, which has a fire separation in both floor, ceiling, and walls. So that's something you have to consider. And the code, our code, states that it must be sealed in compliance with the National Building Code of Canada. Now, I'm just going to come here before I close off this last little bit of this unit and just say, there are fire stopping companies out there. There's fire stopping manufacturers. There's fire stopping companies. They are for most that I've talked to when I was kind of looking at my research, doing this, they are very happy to work with you. They will tell you what you need. You can't just go and buy caulking and put caulking in a hole and smear it and call it done. There are particular rules that when you do it, and that's called a listing. And we're going to get into a listing a little bit further down in this presentation. But for now, let's stop there and come back to the next presentation.